getting here, my GPS kept sending me out the other way down 1488, and I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't get it, so I got creative.
Okay, well, we would like for you to take the first couple of minutes to introduce us. We do have a timekeeper over there if you keep an eye over that direction. And but introduce us to the things that maybe we did not cover in our questionnaire, and things that you feel are just the key to the race.
I didn't think there was anything the questionnaire didn't cover, but as far as specifics, I thought there were a few things with regard to my specific campaign. If you've seen me speak before, you know I'm very much in favor of reducing the size of this court's budget. I think it's just completely out of hand. It's $100,000, approximately, $100,000 more expensive than the next highest court, which is Judge Mays' court, the 410th. The salaries are bloated for the employees. You have an $80,000 court coordinator. There's no college education requirement for that job. It's not a professional degree. Thank you. She has an assistant that makes $55,000. There's nothing more important to me than reducing the size of this budget. I live here, I pay taxes, and I have to worry about keeping my doors open. And this has become, I guess, the focal point of why I decided to run. Since then, I've learned of several other things that I wholeheartedly disagree with. Pretrial release for sexual predators are occurring in that court. I don't have specifics on that yet. I'm pulling the records now. I've also found a great deal of favoritism in the appointments to attorneys, with one attorney making several $100,000 a year out of this single court. That simply can't go on, and in my opinion is wrong, and I'm dedicated to getting rid of it. Other than those specifics, I thought the questionnaire was pretty well covered. I'll be honest, there were some issues in there that I had never heard of and was unfamiliar with, and I pointed that out in my answers that I'm unfamiliar with that. So I'm looking forward to your questions and hope I can lead you in the right direction with regards to my campaign.
Okay, so who has the first question for Mr. Case? Oh, come on now. Certainly you. Okay, Jerry.
Well, the one I had a couple down. I was trying to decide which one, but you indicated like there's a big backlog in the courts right now. What has the rebuttal that has been said is, and the facts that I see don't match that up. It looks like they had a backlog at one time, but they're clearing more cases than what are brought in new this last year, the last couple of years. What is your answer to that? To me, that doesn't say it's a backlog if they're making progress.
The backlog I'm referring to are criminal cases. The civil cases, they did have a backlog that have been cleared pretty much. Those were the tax appraisal district cases. They very quickly moved through the system. There's not a lot to them. In fact, there's no judicial interference at all. It's basically name called at the door, rubber stamp on a default order, and it moves on through the process. What I was referring to is criminal cases. There seems to be approximately a 2 to 4 year backlog. Most recently, there are 2 cases pending. One was just dismissed 2 weeks ago, if I remember properly, where the case was 4 years old. That's 4 years that a criminal is either walking around with the rest of us or locked up in jail. The second case that I'm referring to, the person is still locked up in jail, and that case is 4 years old. The only justification you can have for a criminal case going that long is if it is a complex capital murder, numerous victims and witnesses involved, and these are not those types of cases. So, time goes fast. The backlog that I was referring to is the movement of the trial cases, which are, in my opinion, are the criminal cases. Civil cases, everybody knows, pretty much settled. They don't take up a lot of time. They don't take up a lot of the judge's time, I should say. But the criminal cases do, unfortunately, like we're seeing with the swearing-in cases, a 2-week writ hearing. That's 8 hours a day, paying attorneys to handle both the prosecution and defense side of it. If the court's not actively trying cases, what happens is the criminal case is bogged down and things don't move.
Okay, Mr. Allison.
As a judge, do you agree with some of the older Supreme Court opinions that affirm the prerogative of the jury to judge the facts and the law in a case? And if so, do you agree with informing them of that?
Yes, I think in the charge, every charge I've ever seen includes that language. You're the sole judge of the facts.
Or the facts and the law?
No, actually the judge, I think, needs to control the law. And what I'm referring to is there's a lot of cases, specifically blood cases and more DNA cases in Montgomery County, that involve some heavy science. The judge has to be the gatekeeper of that evidence, to allow that to just come in without knowing the expertise of the person who's done the testing, who's doing the qualifications, who's going to be testifying to the evidence itself. I think does a disservice. We've seen too many people that have been innocent, or I should say not guilty, and left on death row for 18 to 20 years because the evidence was simply prematurely admitted, or in some cases was never even known to exist. To answer your direct question, though, I do believe the jury should absolutely be judge of the facts. They need to be told what the law is. And I'm not familiar with your background, so if this is a little beneath you, you have to forgive me. When a judge writes the charge, the charge is telling the jury what the law is and basically how do you apply the law to the facts in this case. They are given the law, so I don't want to misinterpret your question, but what I think you were asking me is, should they be the sole judges? No, the judge has to intervene and keep out some of the more spurious evidence, in my opinion.
Looking at question 8 on the recidivism, I just heard of a tragic accident where a 7-year-old was thrown from a car. The wreck was caused by a drunk driver, and this was not his first time. What do you do with repeat offense? This was, I forget what they said, how many times. Why? Why do we keep letting them go?
I have no answer for why do we keep letting them go, obviously. My feeling is that when somebody comes back, they're not learning their lesson. If you have repeat offenders, you have one of two choices. If it's a problem that can be solved by treatment, they need to receive the treatment, if they're willing. 90% of them are not going to be willing to receive the treatment, so you only have one option. You get them away from the rest of us and protect our streets. I don't know the facts of the case you're talking about.
It just happened the other night here in Montgomery County.
I read a quick blurb. I think the baby was ejected, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I read a quick little blurb about it, but I don't know the facts. As far as recidivism, studies have shown it takes at least 5 times for somebody to go through a treatment program. And I mean, I'll be perfectly honest, my daughter has a drug my daughter's been through drug rehab 5 times. We hope this time it finally takes, but if it doesn't, she doesn't live with us. People like that need to be kept away, either to become more responsible or just to protect ourselves. Those types of crimes, like the drug crimes and the DWI crimes, usually are low-level offenders, so they're given a chance, they're given a chance, they're given a chance, and then all of a sudden they hit the big time. The goal is to not let them get to the big time. If you look at what Judge Mays has done with his drug court intervention and his mental health court intervention, he's done some amazing things to reduce the recidivism rate. And that's kind of the goal in any court system. That takes a lot of work on the part of the judge. And I'll be honest with you, if you go to the court at 7:30 in the morning, Mays is on the bench. If you go there at 7:30 at night, Mays is on the bench. That's what it takes. A lot of judges aren't willing to do that. Fortunately, we have quite a few in Montgomery County that do. There's no easy answer to that. I do think that the more they come back, the higher the punishment has to go. If they're just not going to learn the lesson, put them away forever and get them away from the rest of us.
Okay. So on the other hand, Mr. Crumby.
Number 14 about parents' rights. I think of rights as, you know, the Bill of Rights, rights that are given to us by God that government doesn't give us. So you said you're a strong advocate of grandparents' rights. So my question is, what rights does a grandparent have?
I didn't read the question the way you proposed it, but I understand where you're coming from. My meaning is, I'm married to my second wife, and I have children that live with me that are minors. I raised my children. I actually stopped working from 1998 to about 2001 to raise my 2 boys. When I got divorced, I was their sole custodian. They've lived with us the whole time. My belief is that if something had happened to me, I would really want my mother to have taken care of those kids rather than have them go to my ex-wife. I know everybody has a crazy ex. That's not what I'm talking about. there were some family issues that I didn't think it was healthy for them to be in. So having been in that situation, my perspective is I want to preserve and protect grandparents' rights to see the children. As it is now, you have to go back into court to get an order for a grandparent to actually have custody or have control of the child or even see the child if the other parent decides to move away. It leaves grandparents with no recourse. I answered that, I guess, from my own perspective, and I truly believe that grandparents need to be involved in the raising of their children. I don't think that it's just throw the kids out to the parents, and whichever one ends up winning the lawsuit, that's who gets to raise the kids. I don't know if I answered your question, but I was trying to give you my perspective on where I'm coming from.
Okay, well, I think we have a number of questions in the queue, but time-wise, we have time for one more question. This will be the last one. Ms. Ferguson.
Are you familiar with the CRC, the UN CRC Convention for the Rights of the Child?
No, I'm not familiar with that.
Or the Parental Rights Protection Bill?
No,
Amendment, rather.
I'm not familiar with that either.
Okay, well, we have come to the time. We'll let you have the final minute to give us your closing argument.
Well, I want you guys to know I plan on working very hard if I'm elected. I think the court needs to be set the ship right is about the basic little honest way I can say it. There's a lot of problems that are existing in that court, and you know, without going into the personal issues, I think that we need a full-time judge. Working 2 or 3 days a week, 2 or 3 hours a day is not my opinion of a full-time judge. You guys are going to need 12 and 14-hour days to get rid of some of the problems in that court, and I work that now easily. My practice is full-time. I do a great job for my clients, and I fully intend to do a great job for the citizens of Montgomery County, knowing full well that it is not out of entitlement that I would be elected, but out of service to the community. And that was my goal in running, is to provide that service to the community, because I live here too. Thank you, folks.
Okay, well,